On the bench, they had Phil Foden and Jack Grealish. You're talking about nearly £200 million just by them two players.
I will completely ruling out Jesse Lingard on this one.
But surely he's been around so long now. He must be at least 32.
I'm disappointed in both of you. Where's Conor Gallagher? I tried to be the humble one, and then you mentioned Conor Gallagher.
I love how you get Conor Gallagher into every single
squeezes in every single time.
Exactly.
You can say changes, but my worry now is a little bit too late.
You're talking about the best striker in the world. It's just inexcusable. You can't have that start to the season.
Audacity that he has just to attempt that, and it's Peter Cech that's in goal, if I remember right, and he just watches it.
When I was growing up, Burnley were in Division 2, which is of course now League 1, and you'd have never thought that you'd have seen Burnley, even in the Premier League, never mind beating the champions.
Mate, this is when I started crying, stuff like this. Remembering how it used to be. So it's...
Welcome back to another episode of The Fan Zone, the Premier League talk show by the fans, for the fans. In today's episode, I'm joined by Kris from Gallowgate Shots. I'm joined by Joe from the TurfCast podcast, and I'm Dee from Crystal Palace channel, back of the nest. And you know what? Let's jump straight into it and let's talk about the top of the Premier League. The title race is hotting up. And my question is, will squad depth be important with regarding the title race? Do you think it might come down to squad depth, Kris?
I don't think so. You know, I think we're talking about squad depth, but how deep the top teams need the squad to be, because it's so talented, and the players that the likes of Man City, Chelsea have that are just sat on the bench, and we're talking about 2-3 players that come on every single week. And I would love to have that at my club, where it doesn't matter which player you bring on the bench. It's not necessarily the players are going to improve that team that are already on the field. It's like for like, really. They're all very, very top world-class players. But squad depth, I think squad depth mainly, it's the lower teams, the ones that towards the bottom of the table, who play with injuries left, right and centre, because we don't have the facilities like these top teams do. But I think squad depth, it's more of an issue for the teams lower down in the league.
Yeah. Joe, what about who has the best squad depth? Who do you think up there between the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Cities? Which squad has the best depth? For me personally, I'm leaning with Manchester City. Kris, you've seen it first and on the weekend. They managed to beat you 4-0, but on the bench, they had Phil Foden and Jack Grealish. You're talking about nearly £200 million just by them two players just on the bench. So, Joe, do you lean with me with Man City, or are you going with maybe like sort of United, Liverpool? Where do you land?
No, I agree. I'm going City. I think if you just look at Chelsea, they've had a few injuries recently. They've gone massively off the boil, so you can see that they clearly don't have a decent squad depth there. Liverpool's is okay, but again, I think a few injuries, pretty much Salah and Van Dijk. If them two get injured, then I think they'll come off the boil. Especially Salah. The AFCON's going to be massive for them. But City. Like you just said, they've just got depth all the way through. They've got players on the bench that have just come off and annihilate you. And even players that sometimes go under the radar, like Mahrez, when they're playing, they're absolutely fantastic. So, I think it's City. I don't even think it's a debate sometimes. I think City is just by far and away the best, on paper, team in the league.
Yeah. Kris, you want to lead us on to the next question, talking about youngsters?
Yeah, youngsters, something that we're seeing mainly at Arsenal, especially over the last week. Something I think we spoke about this last time, that me and you are on D was likes for Arsenal and where they could end up. But Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe, absolutely fantastic once again for Arsenal. Who is the best young player in the Premier League at this moment in time?
I have to go with Phil Foden. I just think when he's on a ball, on his day, you can't tackle him. And how old is he? He's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's still young, isn't it?
Exactly, and ridiculously talented. And even though he was on the bench on the weekend, he can play for any Premier League side. I truly believe that. And any side will have him in his squad. We talked about squad depth just a second ago, and who wouldn't want Phil Foden there? But I think if you're talking about the youngsters this season, it's Phil Foden. But on paper, the player that's disappointed me the most, who should be up there, is Sancho, because he's got bags of talent, and one way or another, it just hasn't worked out for him yet. And I'm expecting big things from him now that Ralph Rangnick has come in, for him to go on and push to the next level.
I'm with you, mate. I'm thinking Foden all day long. I can't look anywhere else apart from film. Like you just said, they're sat on the bench, but he walks into any single Premier League team. We're sold for England. He's a phenomenal player, and he's only going to get better. And you can actually see Foden's is a type of player that you don't see it very often. But if he was to pack his bags and go overseas to one of the leagues abroad, he'll be absolutely probably even better in one of those leagues. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy that the talent that boy has.
Yeah, no, I agree, lads. I think it's going to turn into one of them shows where we just agree all the way through it. But I agree. I can't see anybody other than Phil Ford, and I think his quality he has now is second to none. And when he's for his age bracket, and when he's older, I think he's going to be one of them players that he'll be potentially winning Ballon d'Ors. He can go on to win pretty much anything apart from any international stuff, of course, because he's English. But at club level, I think he's going to just he's going to win so much. He's going to do really, really well, and I just can't see how anyone can choose anyone other than Phil Ford. I'm a big fan of Smith Rowe, but I feel he's still a little bit behind it. I think he's a little bit younger. I'm not sure. Someone might correct me on that, but he's not been on the scene as long. Big fan of him, but yeah, Phil Ford for me all day long, easily.
I will completely ruling out Jesse Lingard on this one.
Surely he's been around so long now. He must be at least 32.
He's really 30 years old. That is just.
Always think he's a youngster, don't there?
Exactly.
There's always an article that says youngster. What?
I'm disappointed in both of you. Where's Conor Gallagher? I tried to be the humble one, and then you mentioned Conor Gallagher.
I love how you get Conor Gallagher into every single.
Squeezes in every single time.
Exactly. Seeing there's Conor Gallagher as well. I thought I would not mention it in this episode. I thought you guys would, but you didn't do it, so I had to jump in about. But Joe, you go ahead and let's start about Newcastle, and you can lead us into the Newcastle chat, Joe.
Yeah, obviously we've got Kris here, so we can't not mention Newcastle. There's been a lot of chat about Newcastle, obviously the new owners, new manager, the form, and then obviously you got the victory. We won't mention who it was against, but you got the victory, and then people thought you might kick on, but then obviously, all right, City, you expect to get battered by City. But the one that had the alarm bells ringing for me with the Leicester one, because they've been a little bit poor this season. But what have you made of Eddie Howe's start so far, Kris?
So the start, right? I think if you're just looking at solely results, then we've only picked up that one win against Burnley. We've been a lot fitter. You can see that in the players, and there's only so much which you can do with that squad of players. The same squad of players that have been there for God knows how long now. We've still got, if you look at the weekend against Manchester City, half that squad's probably the same squad that played in the Championship season for us. But there has been improvements, not just on the field, but obviously behind the scenes as well. He's brought in a couple of coaches to assess players after the game. I think it was from Liverpool. I think we got him from Jurgen Klopp, spoke very highly of him. But you can say changes, but my worry now is a little bit too late. Has that ship already sailed for Newcastle?
Yeah, well, it's interesting with Newcastle, isn't it? Dee, what's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, look, with managers, sometimes we talk about them like they come in and swing a magic wand and everything will be fine in just a couple of games. It doesn't work like that. That's how it is. Some managers can do it, others it takes a bit of time. And with Newcastle, I think the most disappointing thing was the amount of time it took for them to get Eddie Howe. There was already talks about, is it too late? What did I have to do? But I think what it really depends on, Kris knows better than me, but it just depends on this upcoming window. Newcastle just have to spend massively. You got a squad under a manager who plays a interesting style of football, and can all these players do it? And talking to Newcastle fans and listening to their comments on social media and also on YouTube, they've said that they need a new squad. In terms of the position that you want to go and get, pretty much everyone on the pitch, Newcastle can improve on. So it just depends on whether they can go and bolster them positions, which is not going to be an easy task. Even though they're the richest club in the world, they've hardly got any wins. So players, you have to attract these players. So I think it's going to be a difficult task. But in the next couple of weeks, I will come here and give you a definite answer. But for now, let's see what they do in the window. That's all that matters. That's their last hope.
I think that's what we'll have to do. We'll just have to sit patiently now. And yes, I was probably one of the only people that wanted the season postponed for a little bit, just so we could get that transfer window, and obviously just postpone the games till after that. But like you said, what obviously started this about squad depth. Newcastle United squad depth. We've got 4 keepers in our 25-man squad, 4 goalkeepers. It's unheard of. It's absolutely crazy the position that we're in. Like you said, I think getting players in January. I don't think it's necessarily going to be hard to get players in, because I think we need to now realise that you're not going to be attracting world-class players. Of course you're not. Like you said, we haven't got wings yet. So we'll just have to get those players in that are ready for a fight. And there are players out there that will be doing it. But yes, they're going to get a hefty paycheck at the end of each month as well by coming to Newcastle United. It's inevitable. The thing that worries me is that how do the current squad react to that? Because our wage bill is just going to be ripped in half. Yeah. So you might have a player coming in that is probably not much better than some of the higher earners at the club, but making a lot more money than those on the current contracts.
Yeah, I think for me with Newcastle, if I'm looking at it any other season, I'm looking at how you've been so far, the results. Any other season, you look at it and thinking that they're gone. That's one team gone. But with Newcastle at the minute, they have that get out of jail free card in January, where you're just sort of like, right, let's see what they do in January. So that's how big it is, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty much unfair to be fair. Just got all the money in the world. It's a cheat code. You got all the money in the world. Go out and spend that, bringing these players to survive. But it's not going to be an easy task, as Kris said it. As we're reaching a halfway point of the season, I want to ask you guys, who has been your biggest disappointment so far? And I'll start with you, Kris.
Easy. It's probably the player that impresses the most last season, Joe Willock. We signed him. We got him on loan last season, and he hit the ground running, scoring every single game. I have to say, he wasn't doing much else in the games apart from scoring goal. He went missing quite a lot in play. But this season, I'm not sure if it's because he's been given this different role. It's more of a, is it more defensive role he has at the minute? He's in centre midfield, and is he that solid centre midfield player, or is he like a number 10? But he's really, really been disappointing this season. I think most Newcastle United fans will probably agree with me as well.
Joe, are you leaning towards the Joe Willock side, or you go with maybe a top side clubs player? For me, I was leaning towards the likes of Harry Kane. It might be surprising to a few, but the expectations that he's had and what he's done so far in his career, being the best striker in the world, and I know people can go in and blame the style of play, but you just expect a bit better from him. And in the start to the season, if you're talking about the best striker in the world, it's just inexcusable. You can't have that start to the season. And I've been massively disappointed, because I've been his biggest fan since he started his career, which is kind of weird because I'm a Palace fan, but I always believed in him. And for me this season, I am upset, Harry Kane. You upset me, but I know that he's still got it in him. But for you, Joe, are you going for a Burnley player or?
No, I was going to go with Harry Kane, but I'll go with somebody different, seeing as you stole him off me. I'm going to go Grealish. Like he came into City with all this hype around him and an expectation, and £100 million. Even for City, and even in this day and age, it's a lot of money for a footballer. And he was so good last season at Villa. I used to argue with people when he played in the Championship, because people would say to me, like, he's going to go in the Premier League and rip it up. And I was like, no, he's all right. He's not that good. Then he came in his first season in Premier League. He were insane at Villa. I remember when they came to the turf and beat us, I think it was 2-1 or 2-0 on New Year's Day a couple of years ago. He absolutely ran the show. He was so good. That was the first time I'd watched him live, actually in person. I was like, okay, this kid is special. He's very, very good. So I was quite excited when I went to Man City, because I want to see, England's best players playing for the best teams in the best competitions, being a big England fan. That's why I was disappointed with Harry Kane. I think the saving grace for Grealish, and while not many people are going to say him, is A, there's people like Sancho that have come in who are doing worse, and B, he has gone to a very big club, and he's got that sort of like bedding in period and things like that. And, he's a really big jump in terms of sort of like levels in Villa and City. I don't mean that obviously in disrespect.
I don't think it's just that, Joe. I think it's the whole big fish, small pond thing with Grealish. He's gone from Villa where he's star man, and you're going to a side that is full of them. Like, you're not just that one shining hope. Similar like Newcastle, you look at someone like St. Maximin. There's a reason why he isn't at a big club, because he's not good enough to be at the big club. But I think he likes being that sort of talisman player for the smaller club. I think the same with Grealish. I think, yes, if he was given the opportunities where he's playing week in, week out, then you would see a better one. But he's never going to get that opportunity. Never.
Ooh, Joe, do you think that's never going to happen? With me, I lean on towards the bedding in period. He's gone to a big club. Playing for Pep ain't easy, just in terms of just a tactical perspective on the game. So, Joe, do you think that after a bit of time, he will live up to his actual true value of around £100 million?
Well, that's difficult to say. Like, what actually is a value for £100 million? I see what Kris is saying, though. He's always going to be rotated in and out of the squad, and he's never going to be the main guy. He might get better. I think after the bedding in period, he will become better and will become one of the first names on the team sheet in the next 2-3 years at City. But he is, even the first names on the team sheet at City are still rotated in and out of the squad. So it's whether he can get used to that and get his feet running, hit the ground running, despite being rotated in and out of the squad. But I do think he'll come good, definitely. Fingers crossed, anyway.
Kris, take us back to the good days where, you know, Newcastle were living life amazingly. It was all going well. Take us back to them days.
Oh, mate, this is when I start crying, stuff like this. Remembering how it used to be. So Newcastle United, me growing up supporting Newcastle United, and that shirt behind us, just Laurent Rebeu, for me, screams Laurent Rebeu. You had players like Nobby Solano, obviously Shearer, and growing up as a Newcastle fan, when I was younger, we had a team to be proud of. We really did. We had, so obviously the Kevin Keegan days, which is probably a little bit. I was born, but I was a little bit too young to appreciate those. But obviously going forward, I had the likes of Bobby Robson, and the seasons under Bobby Robson were absolutely amazing, phenomenal. But I want to touch on the goal, which I remember, and the goal which stands out, and it's not too far back, and you'll probably all remember it. And it didn't even get goal of the season, I remember, right? But it's probably Cece's second against Chelsea.
It took it off.
Yeah. We'll say the first one against Chelsea was just as good. He chipped it up for himself and smashed that in the back of the net. But that second one, audacity that he has just to attempt that. And it's Peter Cech that's in goal, if I remember right, and he just watches it. And I think it's Drogba, I think, is on the sidelines, and even Drogba starts clapping that goal, because I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think we ever will see anything like it again.
Physics must have turned off in that 5 to 10 seconds, because honestly, even watching that goal back now, how did that even happen? I don't know if we're talking about the same goal. I'm talking about the one where he shot. It was against Chelsea, but it was on the left-hand side, and he just cold towards the right-hand side. And it's like, what? How's that even possible? For you, Joe, are you going with Papa Cisse as well? Or?
No, I'm gonna stick with Burnley one. The one that obviously stands out the most for me. It's got to be 2009. Robbie Blake against Manchester United, Burnley's first ever game. Home game, in the Premier League. We'd already played away at Stoke the week before. No way in the game at any point. Beat 2-0, bullied off the park. First game in the Premier League ever. First game in the top flight since the 1970s. Absolutely bullied away. Then we played Man United, champions at the time. It don't sound as good now because Man United have fallen so far, but it's just when they were still good. Fergie was still the manager. They were the champions. They came to Turf Moor just thinking, they'll come and they'll roll us over. Obviously, we went 1-0 up, I think, on the 11th minute. Robbie Blake, an absolute thunderous volley straight into the top corner. But I think Ben Foster was in the net. Didn't get anywhere near it. Then we went on to win the game 1-0, first in the Premier League. And like obviously, you were saying there, Kris, when you were younger, you were growing up and Newcastle were decent. When I was growing up, Burnley were in Division 2, which is, of course, now League 1. And you'd have never thought that you'd have seen Burnley, even in the Premier League, never mind beating the champions. And to be where we are today, all right, we've not had a great start to the season, but to have finished 7th in the last few years and 10th and played against Olympiacos in the Europa League, it's fantastic to see where we've come from, what we were from when I was growing up. But that was the moment where I was like, wow, we are actually maybe getting decent now and not just going to be in like lower league obscurity, as I always thought we would be. So Robbie Blake against Man United in 2009, I've got to go with that one.
Which was decent, so I stole your answer. You got a backup?
I might as well go with Palace goal. If we're talking about important goals, and my favourite goal since in the Premier League era, since basically we got promoted, because we've been a yo-yo club before that, and ever since we got promoted, we've managed to stay for nearly 10 years, which has been a miracle. So, and during them phases, we've had some very difficult moments and some important goals. So my favourite goal, there's so many. There's actually so many. It's all about survival, really. And I think I have to lean towards Jason Puncheon. Jason Puncheon at home to Norwich. It was one of them games where we had to win. He goes and scores a goal and he ends up crying. And there's a picture of him basically next to the fans, and it just looks like he's given birth. So just the celebration itself and the goal, how important it was, it just stood out for me. So I'm gonna go with Jason punching against Norwich, because by that goal, it basically confirmed us staying up. But there's also been other important goals as well for us. But that's my favorite Premier League goal. And that wraps it up for episode 7 of the Fan Zone. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, and also comment below your thoughts and let us know whether you agree or disagree with us with your favorite goals or with the biggest disappointments. Let us know, and subscribe to not miss out on future content. I'm D, and I'm joined by Kris and Joe here. And until next time, thanks for watching.